In this video, I wanted to talk about my IEC Journey, which was the International Experience Canada visa application process. So what it is, it's basically a work and holiday visa. Mine is for a year and Keen's is for 2 years. I guess we can start off why that is. It's just depending on the country you're from, you can either apply for a 1-year visa or a 2-year visa. So there's a list of countries, and depending on what country you're from, you can see in the table of what's what. For some countries, if you can apply for the 1-year visa, you can apply twice. Also, International Experience Canada is for people under 35 and people who don't have any dependents, so you can't have children or you can't bring your children with you to Canada. Around a year ago, in January 2022, we decided to apply. We knew that the first draw was on January 17th, so applications opened just before that. First of all, we used Moving to Canada as our main guide of what to do, and they have Moving to Canada Go profile where you can create a profile and they show you a checklist of all the things you need to do in order to apply. So we followed that and it was relatively straightforward, at least for the main part. You do need to read through everything and make sure that you're doing everything that it says, because this was a year ago when I applied, but if I remember correctly, you start on one website, then you need to go back to another website, and it's almost like these two websites that you're going between and swapping information on. On Moving to Canada Go, it's easily laid out, so it's quite easy to find and understand what's going on. So we created our profile on January 14th, and we applied on that same day. If I remember correctly, we didn't actually need to submit any documents to apply. Also, I should mention, the way this visa process works is, like I said, there are a specific group of people who can apply, but when you're applying to get invited to apply for the actual visa. And this is pretty much a lucky draw. There is a set number of people from each country that can go. So for example, from Latvia, they have around 43 or 46 places, I think they had for last year. Whereas for like Ireland and Irish people, they had like over 10,000 people that could go in that season. Also, I think seasons open in January and then they close sometime later in that year, depending on how quickly they fill the spaces, because sometimes they send out the invitations to apply. I'll get into this a bit more, but pretty much if people don't accept these invitations or they fail their application, they still have these spaces to fill, and they kind of keep going until they're all filled. So the first draw was on January 17th, and they did a draw of sending invitations every Monday. So the first one was on January 17th. We didn't get invited on that one, but I got my invitation on January 24th, which was the second week of invitations, so I was very excited about it, because again, this is a lucky draw, so you might be waiting weeks to get it. You might be getting it on the first week, even though if you applied the day before. So you don't really know when to expect it. But this is where the tricky part comes in, and the part where you really need to plan ahead, because when you receive your invitation to apply, you have 10 days to now accept the invitation, or well, decline if you've changed your mind. But this means that you have 10 days and all you have to do is press that you accept the invitation, and then it will guide you to the documents that you need. However, you already know quite a few documents that you need. And that means that once you press that you accept this invitation, you have 20 days to gather your documents and submit your final application. If you're not sure how long you need for certain documents, or if you're in the process, or you know that some documents are going to take longer, I might recommend waiting a little bit on those 10 days where you can accept it, but still making sure that you accept it in time. For example, I wouldn't leave it later than day 8, let's say, just so you know you've definitely accepted it and you can move on with the application process. I didn't actually know this. I didn't know how this affects the days, but I accepted it on the day that I received it, which now meant that I had 20 days to collect my documents instead of the possible up to 30 days that if you spend the 10 days of your invitation plus the additional days. So that meant, because I received my invitation on January 24th and then had accepted it on the day, I had until February 13th to submit all my documents. And there are certain documents that everyone will need, and there might be some documents that they require from only people from specific countries or specific backgrounds. The things that everyone needs to submit are police certificates from countries where you have lived for at least 6 months since legal age, which I think they count from 18, or I don't know the technicalities, but it also might be depending on the countries that you lived in. My birthday is in February and I moved to the UK in 2018 of September. So from February to September I had spent 7 months in Latvia after turning 18, and then I moved to the UK. So that meant I still needed to get the police certificate from Latvia, but I also needed to get the certificate from the UK because I had spent the past 4 years there. And I'll go into the breakdown of prices near the end of the video because I feel like that's an important consideration as well. But this will depend on the country that you're trying to get the police certificates from, and also the process for this is very different for different countries. When I was applying for the Latvian one and the UK one, for both of them I could do the applications online. I found that the Latvian one was a bit more difficult to find how to apply for, or what documents I needed to have, or like how much it would cost. I did end up finding everything, and the turnaround for that was quite quick. So I think once I had it figured out and applied and paid the fee, it came within a few days. Whereas the UK one, I believe, took 5 to 9 days. But I'll go into that a bit more. Then another thing that everyone needs is a passport, and if you have it, a national ID, just a proper scan of your passport. Then you also need to fill out a family form, but it's quite straightforward. You need to do your application questions for the application. Again, this is relatively straightforward, but there's at least one thing that I would recommend watching out for that I'll touch on later in the video as well. The last thing that everyone needs is a passport/visa picture, and we got these professionally done at a local photo place, but I'm sure just a picture on a white background would do as well. And then for me, when I got my list of documents, I also needed to do a medical exam. And this, not everyone will need to do this. For example, Keen didn't need to do it, and technically if you've been living in the countries that are on the list that don't need it, if you've been living in one of those for the last 6 months, you shouldn't need it. So I thought I wouldn't need to get it done because I had been living in the UK for quite a while, but it turned out that I still needed to do that. So again, when I get into the expenses, you'll see that this is one of the things that you should think about getting, but don't get it before you're invited to apply. Now I'll get into more specifics about the documents. So first, the police certificates. So this took up to 10 working days. You could pay extra to get it in 2 working days, but as long as you're organized, you shouldn't need more than those 10 working days to get them. To apply for this, again, like I mentioned, you can apply for this online. So once you're applied, you get your invitation to apply, and you see that what documents you need, and it says police certificates. I believe either there or Moving to Canada website, there's a whole list of like you can select your country and it brings you to the website that tells you how to get the police certificate from the specific country. So there are all of these resources. It's quite difficult for me to tell you all about it because it's really just country dependent, but the information's there. So for the UK one, to apply, first of all, I needed to complete the application form. It's pretty standard. Again, it's just information about yourself, so shouldn't be anything too difficult. Then you need proof of your current address. It can be like utility bills, your lease, letter from your landlord, bank statements, any of that kind of stuff. Again, once you're applying for it, it has a whole list of things. Then copy of your passport and / travel document. So if you're in the UK on a visa, you might need to submit your visa as well. Then again, you need your passport photo. First thing that I did was go to the local printing place that also does passport pictures. I got my passport picture done there, and I scanned my passport there and made sure to get the pictures that he took in digital format as well. It said you can submit additional documents. Again, I don't think I submitted anything for this. Then it was just signing terms and conditions and paying the fee. And the fee for the UK one was £55 for the standard one, which was the 10 working days, or £95, which was the 2 days. So if you were really in a rush, you could pay the £95. And I will mention, they don't send this in a digital format, they send it through the mail. So if you don't get it in the mail, you might have to check again, or you also have to make sure you're giving them your mailing address, because you will need to get the police certificate. My Latvian police certificate, that was actually in digital format, so it might depend on what country you're from. They might come in different formats. Some might be in paper format and mailed to you, some might be in digital format. When you're submitting the police forms, you need to have them in PDF and merge the files, because you can only make one submission. Then the next thing, for the family form that you're filling out, this only has a few questions. You need to provide the information about your parents. Not 100% sure why, but also you need to provide information about your spouse or your common law partner, which would be a partner that you've been living together for at least a year. And also mention if any of these people are coming with you to Canada. Also, you need to declare if you have any dependents. But again, for this program, you can't have any dependents. And the thing I will mention for the family form, we had some problems opening this form. So you really need to make sure that your Adobe Reader is updated, because that's how you open it and fill in the information. Because I needed to do the medical exam, I first of all looked up some places and tried booking the next available appointment, or the next available appointment that I could go to. So I did this on February 8th. The medical exam is pretty standard. I think I needed to do like a urine test. I think they just test if like any drugs show up. The doctor just did a quick physical, and took a blood sample as well to make sure to check blood. I know there's a whole list of things they're checking for. I just can't remember it. But also, when I was looking for the medical exam, you need to specify that you're looking for a medical exam to apply for a Canadian visa. And that's how you kind of go through it, because then the exam is standardized. You can't just go to your doctor and tell them that you want a medical exam, because that's not gonna work. Also, they did an x-ray, but I think that's about it. I think the whole appointment took maybe half an hour, up to an hour, definitely not more. After the appointment, they just gave me some papers pretty much saying that I've completed the exam, and they actually submit the results straight to the Canadian, like through the embassy or through the immigration center. I'm not sure which one or how exactly it works, but they submit it through their system. I still scanned the forms that they gave me saying that I've done the exam and sent it off, because I think it's not necessarily automatic, because they still need to do the blood tests and send them, but I don't think that takes long at all. And I believe it showed up on the system on the IRCC website, which is the immigration website where you submit all of the documents. Also, I will mention the fee for the medical exam was probably the same, about the same cost as everything else in the application process, because it cost £340 just for the medical exam. So when I had received all of the documents and scans, I submitted my application on February 10th. Then when you submit your application, you also pay the application fees, and the application fees for this visa are 259 Canadian dollars, or at least last year they were. I don't know if they change yearly or if they stay pretty standard, but I'm sure they're about the same, plus minus a few percent probably. So on the day that I submitted my application, I received my biometrics letter. So this meant that now I had 30 days to submit my biometrics, which was until March 14th. So I had to look up where my closest visa center was, where I could do my biometrics. And when I say biometrics, you just need to go into a center, they take your picture, I think scan your passport and take your fingerprints, and that's about it. So I looked up where the closest visa center for this was, and the closest visa center was actually in London. I was living in Glasgow at the time, and London was the closest. Technically there was also one in Dublin, so depending on how you look at it, Dublin might be closer than London, but at the time there were no appointments at the Dublin one available, and I don't know if they have any now or if they still don't, because it might have been like a knock-on COVID effect that they were closed. On their website they do say that you don't have to travel outside of your country to do these. Let's say you're Irish, the Dublin centre is closed, you might not have to go to London to do them. You might be able to tell them that your closest centre is closed, or your closest centre is just not in your country, so it's too far. And I believe what they do in that case, you might be able to still receive your visa and go to Canada and just do your biometrics when you're at the border. But I feel like that might be slightly trickier, so if you can, I would recommend traveling to do it. The steps for doing this appointment were actually pretty simple. I just booked the appointment. I needed to bring a copy of the biometrics letter that I received from the immigration center, and also the cost of the appointment was included in the fees that you pay. Let's say you've done your biometrics or you're applying to the IEC for a second time, you don't actually need to submit your biometrics again, so the fee, like the application fee, might be less than the first year that you're applying. And also the biometrics data is valid for the next 10 years. So because I did mine in 2022, It's my biometrics data is valid until 2032. And also you just need to bring your passport to the appointment. I don't know how long the wait to get an appointment, because I think online, so there is also a Facebook group for IEC applicants or people who are trying to get it, which can be quite helpful because I know that a lot of people share their journey, ask questions, so it can be helpful. I have seen, I think it was on there where I saw that people were talking about how difficult it is to get these biometrics appointments sometimes, but when I was applying for the London one, I saw that there were quite a lot of appointments at quite short notice. So again, I had submitted my application on February 10th and gotten the letter, and I pretty much booked my appointment soon after, but also I needed to check when I could do it, like possibly do it, because I knew it would take the whole day because I was going down to London, doing the appointment, and then coming back to Glasgow. So with university and my work, I needed to make sure that it would work. I booked the appointment for February 23rd, so that gave me plenty of time to kind of prepare for it, even though there's not much to prepare for it, but also make sure that I have plenty of time after, that I'm not really cutting it close to the deadline just in case something happened. When I went to the visa center, honestly, I was in and out of the building in less than 10 minutes probably, and I think this can also be different for different people depending on what appointment you get. I remember when the letter said your time for the appointment, you couldn't show up more than 10 minutes before. I could see people waiting outside just to kind of wait, just to get inside, because they wouldn't take people in before. And also this was a visa center that did visas for a lot of countries, so even though there might be a queue outside, it doesn't always mean that it's actually going to be busy for the specific section that you're going to. So I went in, showed my letter at the front desk. They told me where to go. I went up to like the second floor. There was pretty much no one there, and it was showing the wait times, and it said wait time less than 1 minute or so, and it was pretty much that. I had taken my number, and they showed which room I need to go into. I went in, the lady took my letter, took my passport, just kind of scanned the passport, I believe, or just put in the information from the passport, took a picture of me, I did my fingerprints, and she put like the biometric sticker on, like there's a sticker that pretty much says you've done your biometrics on the back of your passport, but I'm sure like it just shows up when you scan your passport at the border anyway. Yeah, though it was that simple. So I had the rest of the day in London. I do have some clips of that, so I'll just put them here as well. I took the bus on Tuesday night from Glasgow and got into London around 6 or 7 a.m. On the Wednesday. Went for my appointment at 9, so I just walked there because I had plenty of time. in and out of the appointment. I think I just waited a bit before the appointment because I knew I was there a bit early, because also you don't want to be late. Then I had booked a slot for the Sky Gardens in London. That was beautiful. I had been there before. It's a free, you just want to book in advance because they can get quite busy, but it's almost like a botanical garden. There's like a bar or a restaurant thing there as well, but it's pretty much top floor of one of the skyscrapers. Then I walked a little bit around, but I was quite tired, and also I needed to get some studying done. So I went to Brewdog. I can't remember what exactly it's called, but it's like any desk or something like that. Pretty much I paid £7 just to use the desk space there, and in this time I could get unlimited tea or coffee. I got access to their Wi-Fi, and I got a pint of any lager that I wanted at the end of session pretty much. And I think it works until 5 p.m. or so, so if you wanted to do that you could have like a full-on work day, have your pint at the end of the day and leave. So it worked out quite well. And then I met up with one of my friends, and yeah, I had the bus back around 10 p.m. I think on Wednesday night, and arrived in Glasgow on Thursday morning around 6 or 7 a.m. as well. It was quite a long day all in all, but it was worth it because I got to do the appointment. But again, this is one of those things that you might not necessarily think about when you're applying because it's not a direct cost of the application process. But even getting the tickets to go to London or wherever you're going, just your travel expenses of that, or if you're traveling you might want to make a weekend out of it. That's kind of what Keen did, because then it's a bit more pleasant. For any updates on your application process, you get an email pretty much saying that there's an update or there's a new message on your profile. It's quite easy. You don't need to keep going on the website to see if there's anything coming up. Normally you should just get an email notifying you that there's an update. On March 3rd I got an update that my status is updated, and it said that my application was approved. I was very happy. I told my family about it, and everyone was very happy and grateful and all that. Also during this time, Keen had received his invitation to apply and submitted his application on February 24th, but for him, he was still waiting on the police certificates. I don't remember if it was just the Irish one or both of them. So if you don't get your police certificates or the medical exam in time, that's no problem as well, as long as you have proof that you've submitted everything and that you're just waiting to receive them. Instead of uploading the actual certificates, you upload the information or the proof that you're waiting for your information. And the same thing for the medical exam, you just provide proof that you're waiting for your appointment. And this can be even something like an email that you're waiting. Again, for the police certificates, this can be like a confirmation email that they've received everything and they're just in the process of actually making the certificates for you. So that's why Keen's biometric letter didn't come straight away after he applied. He actually had to wait until they opened up the police certificate upload as well. When he submits his application, then someone needs to look at that application and be like, oh, this person's missing the police certificates. So now they send you a message saying, please upload your police certificates. So King waited to get his, he got his, and then soon after they opened up the application again. But anyway, so on the day that I received my application saying that it was approved and all, an hour later I got an email saying that there's an update on my application, and I was slightly confused because I had gotten the news that it was approved, and then it said that it was actually denied now, and I was a bit confused, and also I thought it was quite unprofessional because it was approved and then an hour later it was denied. But the main reason for it being denied was that it said that I currently don't reside in Latvia, and I was a bit confused about this because it said that even if you reside in a different country at the moment, as long as you have an address from your home country, that's all fine. And then it actually took me a while to figure out what was the problem. And I feel like when doing most of the applications that I have done in my life, when it says what's your current address, and in this it actually specified at the top saying that if you're a Mexican student currently living in Canada, please provide your Canadian address. So because I was a Latvian student living in the UK, I provided my UK address, but then at the bottom of it was the question of, is your mailing address the same as your current address? And normally I just put that yes, because, well, if I'm living here right now, obviously I want my mail coming here, although I didn't think they would actually be mailing anything, and to be fair, they don't mail anything, but I feel like it would be better if they had like a disclosure on this. And again, this will not apply to all countries, it's only specific countries, but Latvia is on the list where you need to provide your address. So for this question, I actually should have put no and put my Latvian address so they know that I have an actual address in Latvia as well. Because for example, Keen had done this as well, where he put that yes, it's the same, but because he's from Ireland, it didn't actually matter, and his application was fine.